Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes.
And I'm Kevin Graham.
And today we are delighted to be joined by Paul Quinn. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Hiya.
We're in the beautiful expanses of Gorbals Sound. Tell us a wee bit about the studio.
The studio's been going for about 9 years, just going on to 10 years. Yeah, it's a real deal. You know, it's a proper studio. It could be in Los Angeles, it could be in New York, it could be in London. It's as good as studios I've ever been in, you know, and I've recorded a lot of records, you know.
Well, that's what we would love to talk to you about, because anybody that's listened to A Celtic State of Mind will know that Kevin and I were from the same era. We have similar tastes in music.
Yeah. And
you have lived that dream, as it were. Tell us about your early musical kind of introduction.
I mean, how far do you want to go back? I mean, I can remember buying my first drum kit when I was 14. Yeah, about 14, 15. I worked in a place called Stevenson's Dairy. It was the very first job that I had. And I can even remember how much I got. I got 140 quid, which was my holiday pay, which at that time was quite a bit of money, you know. And I think if my memory serves me right, my parents were on holiday. So I was like, I'm going to buy a drum kit. And I knew a guy who was selling a drum kit. This guy was a phenomenal drummer, a guy called Billy Bowes. Absolutely incredible drummer. So I went to Billy's and I bought this beautiful 4-piece Premier Gold Sparkle drum kit. And that was me. I was off. And I just set it up in my bedroom.
While your mum and dad are on holiday?
I just set it up in my bedroom, full stop. You know, it was set up in my bedroom, and that was it. You know, and that's where I learned to play drums. You know, and I just played along to like Clash albums and Blondie records and just music that I liked. You know, and I didn't have a bass drum pedal. So I used to just kick the bass drum because I just thought that's what you done. I didn't know. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, "Is that what you do?" And then it was somebody that said to me, you know, I think I gave a loanate to somebody, and they were like, "Where's the bass drum pedal?" And I was like, "What's that?" Anyway, and I eventually got a bass drum pedal, and I just started playing it, and that was it. You know, so it was really good. So I think. It must have been annoying to the neighbours, no doubt about it. But when I worked in the dairy, you know, I was a good boy, you know, and I used to every day I would bring them milk and cheese and sort of, you know, you would meet the baker when you were out and all that. And we would do the swapsies, you know. So they would give us bread and cakes and all that. So I came from a cul-de-sac, and I used to just give the neighbours. There you go, there your milk and your...
Keep them sweet.
Yeah, and they were lovely people, you know, and we never had any problems with them, you know, to the extent where, you know, Mrs. Closs, I always remember this, Mrs. Closs would come over and say, "Paul, William's night shift this week, you know, so he'll be sleeping between the..." And so they were giving me their schedule where I could rehearse. But, you know, when... sort of as time went on, they were like, oh, you're getting better, son, you know, you're getting better and all that. So that was basically that. And then I joined a mad punk band called 7ID.
Right.
Who just played like Clash covers and, you know, all sorts of stuff, you know. Yeah, that was my first gig in music. I'd never had a lesson. And I just joined these guys who were a few years older than me, you know. So I don't even think I was allowed to get into pubs.
Right.
But they somehow smuggled me into pubs, you know. So I was this wee skinhead guy behind the drum kit.
Self-taught.
Just let them.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Where did that interest come from then? Did you come from a musical family?
No. Although I have heard that my mum was a great singer.
Right.
But what I can remember is even like sort of vague memories of. I can remember playing like the sofa. I remember like the back of the chair. So I used to lean over the chairs, my knees on the seated bit, and I used to lean over the back, and like I knew that was deeper than the arms, you know. So I used to sort of play like beats. I can remember doing that with knitting needles. So I always had this thing about, you know, I came from a big family as well, and there was always really great music in the family. You know, my brothers were into like Neil Young and stuff like that. You know, my elder brother was into, you know, like a lot of country stuff, and you know, there was always great music in the house. You know, early Roxy Music albums and stuff like that. You know, so and I would play all these records.
Was there any drummers that influenced you that you saw on the TV when I want to be? Any styles, the records?
No, I mean, I suppose the first, which is a really strange one, the first drummer that I thought, he is amazing, was Clem Burke with Blondie. It was really strange because Clem's a huge Keith Moon fan.
Keith Moon, aye.
Who I'm not. I'm not a, you know, but I think Clem's style was a wee bit more solid than Keith Moon's. You know, it was a wee bit more, you know, just, you know, Keith would just lash at everything. Clem seemed a wee bit more controlled, you know, and he was just a pure showman. So that, I was like, he looks amazing, you know. So, yeah, probably Clem Burke was my kind of earliest influence as a drummer, you know. Although I don't play like him at all. You know, I just loved the way that he looked, and that was a record that I played and learned to play drums to. It was Parallel Lines.
So you were in the punk band. What happened to that punk band?
I mean, it just disintegrated as sort of bands do. You know, it was just a local band in Belshill, and you know, we just played kind of local gigs and all that. You know, and I mean, it was amazing. You know, it was a great sort of grounding, and that sort of just led me on to, you know, finding guys that were my own age and sort of like-minded, just locally, you know.
That Belshill legendary in the early 80s.
Yeah, I mean, although that sort of legendary status came from a very, very small circle of people, the people that I initially played with kind of weren't really in that. We were really more localised. The guys that sort of made Belshill, you know, kind of famous for what it done and the bands that it produced and stuff like that, they were getting into Glasgow and stuff like that, you know, whereas we were a wee bit more parochial, you know. We would stay sort of close to home, and we thought that, you know, Glasgow's mental, you know. So yeah, I mean, I was just playing with guys that were sort of local, kind of local guys, you know, guys that were my mates, really, you know. Yeah, I think Finding Faust, I think that was the first. I think that was the first band that we sort of formed as a that was the name of the first thing, and then that went from that to Jesus Monroe, and which is a crazy name, you know. But the guy who was the lead singer kind of thought, you know, Bobby was like, you know, he always come up with kind of, he thought it was really controversial and stuff like that, you know. And there was a T-shirt that it was a photograph of Jesus but with Marilyn Monroe's face, you know, which caused a bit of controversy, as you can imagine. And it kind of made the Sunday Mail, you know, and we were like, oh, this is great, you know. And from that we get some shows in Glasgow and stuff. We actually supported very, very, very early Happy Mondays.
Really?
In Glasgow, yeah. And I mean, I can remember giving Sean and Paul Ryder both a T-shirt, and I met them years and years later. I met Paul in Germany when I was with the Soup Dragons, and he still had that T-shirt.
Brilliant.
You know, and he could remember it, and he could remember the band, and he could remember the name of the band, and he thought it was a brilliant name.
Whereabouts in Glasgow was that? Who did you play?
I think we played Night Moves.
Right.
I think we played Night Moves. And if my memory serves me right, it might have been Tam Coyle that put the gig on.
Right.
The famous Tam.
Tam's still doing all the
Tam's
DJing and all that
yeah,
kind of
man.
stuff.
Does the Tar and Army stuff, eh?
Yeah, Tam's a guy.
Aye.
Yeah. Tam's a great guy. He's a good friend as well, you know. So yeah, so that was Tam that done that, you know.
So was it a tame affair then? The Mondays, were they quite reserved?
No, no. I think those guys, you know, they're from Manchester, you know, and I think that, you know, they were just what they were. They were always the same. You know, there was no, you know, when the sort of dance crossover thing came, and they obviously rose to sort of prominence during that, you know. The Mondays were doing that years before that, you know. They were the real deal, you know. The Mondays were the real deal, you know. Sean was the real deal, you know.
He's a genius, eh?
He's a poet.
I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves.
No, absolutely not. Anthony Wilson got it right when he did say, he's one of the greatest poets that Britain's ever produced, and he is. He's an amazing songwriter, Sean, and he's a great guy, Sean.
Yeah,
he's a really great guy. Yeah.
He was chewed up and spat out, and he came out the other end, and a lot of people wouldn't have come out the other end after going through the kind of traumas, the rock and roll traumas that he's gone through.
Yeah, Sean lived the rock and roll lifestyle, and he just dealt with it. But I don't think it was rock and roll to Sean or the Mondays. I think they would have lived that lifestyle anyway.
Yeah. If they were brickies or labourers, they would have been the exact same.
Yeah, they would have just lived that lifestyle. They would have done it more localised to Manchester. But I think that would have been the lifestyle that those guys...
Regardless.
Yeah.
So from Jesus Monroe and getting a wee bit of notoriety in the Sunday Mail and the T-shirts, where did your career go from there?
Well, I set up I sort of raised some sort of funds. At that time there wasn't any Creative Scotland or PRS Foundation or any of these funding things that happen now for musicians. And I raised just locally, sort of a few grand here, a few grand there, and we set up this rehearsal room in the Belshill Community Centre, and it was just really to help the local sort of bands, find a place to rehearse, and because there wasn't anything like that, and there wasn't really anything to do in Belshill, much like the same as now, there's not really a lot for kids to do now, and just from that, just sort of meeting different, people, I've known Norman all my life, Norman Blake from Teenage Fanclub for Belshill, we were into music, he was into music, he was part of the kind of scene that went into Glasgow, and that kind of, so, that's where it went, and then from that, I got to know Norman, obviously, a bit better. Him and Raymond were frequenting this wee studio quite a lot, and they were planning and setting up a recording studio, and they were sort of trying to do likewise what I was doing, only as a business. So I was saying to them, come in here and you can use the phone, you can use the photocopiers, and you can use, So that sort of started happening, and then they had a band that was pre-Teenage Fanclub called the Boy Hairdressers, and
all these pre-band names, there's hundreds of them.
Fantastic,
I know. Lost to the depths of time.
Yeah. So Norman and Raymond were like, "Oh, we've got a few shows to do. Do you want to do them with us?" So I was like, "Great." And it was just me, Norman, and Raymond that used to rehearse. We only rehearsed maybe, 3 or 4 times really. And then the gigs came along, and all of a sudden there was another 2 guys turned up. Joe McLinden that played with Superstar, and Joe's went on to have a really good career in writing and stuff like that. And Jim Lambie, who is like a really world-renowned artist, one of the most successful artists, that Glasgow's probably ever produced. So Jim was playing keyboards, Joe was playing bass, Raymond the guitar, Norman vocals, blah, blah, blah. So we did these shows. The first one we did was a Volcano in Partick, just at the bottom of Byers Road, where the Trainspotting was filmed, the sort of nightclub scene. So we did that, and then we did Fury Murray's. And I remember Norman and Raymond asking me afterwards what's your plans, what are you doing? And I was like, no, I'm just going to keep playing with these guys, which was a kind of stupid. Because I think what they were really angling at was, do you want to keep doing this?
Yeah.
And I was, it was my mates, it was in the other band, and I just kind of felt, I can't really do that to them. But, looking back now, you're like, that's what happens. Anyway, I didn't sort of continue playing with Norman and Raymond, but I did with this band, which didn't really last long, to be honest. And I just continued running that studio, and Norman and Raymond continued to do their thing. And then then from there, it just went, I'd get married and all that, I was married pretty young. I was married when I was 21. And me and my wife were just in a local cafe, and one of my friends sort of seen us in it, and he came in and he says, I heard I heard a wee whisper that Sean's going to ask you to join the Soup Dragons. I was like, all right, okay, And it just went from there. Sean get in contact, and I think I kind of hummed and hawed about that, actually. And eventually, you know, I met up with the guys in the band. I met up with Jim and Cecile and Sean. By this time, Ross had left the band. And then I just went in, you know, they were like, do you want to come in? And so they gave me a copy of the first record that I played that they already had Love God recorded.
Right.
It was more of a rock thing, you know. So I went and just learned the songs, and you know, me being me, you know, I was like, I'm getting this gig. You know, I was just like, the plan is to go in knowing I'll play these songs backwards to them. And I can remember just going out of that rehearsal room. It was in Belshill Street, and Sean was like, "Oh, what do you want to do?" I was like, "The first song," and we played the whole album.
Right.
And that was it. And then it was like, okay, this is really good. You know, I wasn't a great drummer, still I'm not a great drummer, but, you know, I knew my chops and I knew my limitations, and I suppose the thing that I had was I could pick up things really quickly, and I would deliver things really quickly. And then they just asked me to do they were doing a British tour at that time. It was just universities and blah, blah, blah. And we did that. And then after the tour, it was, you know, the three guys just appeared a few days later. After we'd finished that tour and we'd come home and all the rest of it, and the three guys just appeared at my door one day, you know, and they were like, okay, we want you to join the band, you know. So I was like, aye, okay. And that was it. The first thing that I recorded was I'm Free.
Oh my God, aye. I mean, see the tour, obviously you've gone through your apprenticeship almost, playing in bands, going on tour with an established act like that.
Yeah.
What was your memories of that?
I mean, at that time, it was, you know, it was obviously different for the band that I had been in and what I had done before, and the fact that, you know, you had a tour, you had a splitter bus and stuff like that, you know, and you had a guy driving the bus for you, and you had guys setting up your equipment for you, and it was like, wow, this is good, you know, I like this. So that, you know, and you were staying in hotels, and, you know, you weren't slumming it, you get fed, and then at the end of the tour, you get some money. So that was really good, you know. Yeah, you know, I had never experienced that before, you know. I had done loads of shows with, like, you know, with, like, Finding Faust and Jesus Monroe and stuff like that, and we had, you know, I had set up, like, a tour of the UK, and, you know, you were going from, like, Glasgow to Brighton, and then Brighton to Sheffield, and Sheffield to Portsmouth, you know, it was insane. And we were playing, you know, I can remember playing in Brighton, and we each got a bag of chips. That was our payment. We got a bag of chips each. And we were sleeping in the van, you know, we were sleeping on top of the gear and stuff like that, you know. So I think you have to do that. I think you have to get that. That's your learning. That's your apprenticeship.
So we started in my kitchen, and now we're here at God Will Sing.
There you go, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing.
Whose idea was it to do I'm Free?
It was Sean's idea. Like a lot of things in the Soup Dragons, you know, they were Sean's ideas. And I can remember him coming into rehearsals and just saying, has anybody ever heard I'm Free? And, you know, it was a Stones, it was a B-side. And I think they'd only ever played it once, which was at Hyde Park. And what I learned later on was that Mick and Keith weren't really particularly fond of it. And I think that, to my knowledge anyway, that's the only time that they ever played it live was the Hyde Park show. And it was Sean who'd come in and say, oh, does anybody know this? And the riff that you hear at the start of the recorded version, I'm Free, that the Soup Dragons did, is exactly the riff that Jim McCulloch went, yeah, I think I know it, and started playing that riff. That was the riff, you know, that was how that you know, song started. That was exactly what Jim played. And we just played through it, and we were like, yeah, okay. And it was, you know, this is the arrangement, this is how it kind of goes. And I think about, I don't know, a week later, we found ourselves in Livingston Studios with, I think it was George Schilling that actually produced I'm Free. It was George. And yeah, I can remember Tim Parry, who was the kind of second in control at Big Life, coming down to the studio and was like, that's a hit record. And I was just like, I was like, what? Anyway, I just never thought any more of it. And then, you know, blah, 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 get released and stuff like that, you know. And we were pretty excited about it because we thought, well, it's a great tune, and we thought we kind of done it, we thought we'd done it justice and what have you. And I can remember just after it had been released, you used to get the midweek. I think the midweek came through on a Thursday. So I can remember walking down Belshill Main Street, and there used to be 4 telephone boxes just outside the post office. And I went into one of them and I phoned Big Life office. I don't know why. But I phoned Big Life office and just was like, oh, how's it all going? And the guy, I don't know who the guy was, but he was really excited. And he was like, it's number 12, right? And I thought he meant in the independent charts, because the independent charts are really quite a thing at that time.
Was, eh?
And I thought, and I can remember saying to him, that's pretty rubbish, isn't it? And he was like, no, Paul, it's the charts. It's the national charts. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty good then, eh? And he went out, and it just went nuts for there. And I walked out. I was like, well, that's cool. And I think by the time, Sunday came, obviously, and the charts get announced, and it went from 12 to 28. And I thought, well, that's still pretty good. We're still top 30. And it sold a lot of records. And it transpired that it was in the charts for about 13 weeks. It's a long time, And it sort of steadily crept up the charts, went from 28 to 24 to 18 to 13. It just kept going. Mm-hmm. And it ended up, I think it went to number 3. And by that time, obviously the record was out. They had recalled Love God because that song wasn't on it. They put that song on it. They remixed the whole album with a guy called Maurice de Vries. Maurice is just ahead of his time, an amazing producer, and Maurice went on to work with like Nelly Hooper and stuff like that, and he was involved in the Titanic, theme music, and Maurice is real big time now, works in Hollywood, and the record just went totally ballistic, it just went. You could steadily see we were out touring, and you could see each show as it went. You could see there was as many people inside as outside, and it just kind of went bananas.
Just a crest of a wave, really. Yeah?
It was just mental. Yeah, it was a crest of a wave.
Led to a Top of the Pops appearance, which
it led to a few Top of the Pops appearances. Yeah,
I remember seeing these when it was at number 28 in the charts.
Yeah, that's right.
On Top of the Pops.
I think that was the very first. Yeah, that was the first.
And at that time, it's 1990.
Yeah.
So you see, I was a regular buyer of NME and that. So you saw the Rosies and you saw all the rest of them. Eh? And there was 4 guys who you could tell were from Scotland.
Yeah, right.
Because, and I didn't mean this in a bad way, but you had Sean.
Yeah.
Who looked like he had a pair of white jeans on.
That's right.
They looked
and a
like
Duffer St George top.
Well, it looked like a Uruguay Penarol top.
Correct.
That was what it looked like.
Yeah, it was a blue and black and white.
You looked like guys I saw in Stirling, where I came from.
Oh, right, okay.
Whereas usually when you watch Top of the Pops, you could tell that the Mondays were from Manchester. Just by the different clothes that they had on. You could tell that the farm were from Liverpool.
Yeah, of
because
course.
They had different...
Yeah. The gear that they were wearing.
Just the gear that they were wearing there.
Yeah.
And I remember that performance because I remember having a look at that top.
Yeah. It did look like a Penarol top, actually.
Like top
it did. I've never thought of that, but it did.
How do you mime the drums on Top of the Pops?
How do you mime the drums? They've got it's what do you call them? They're just like sort of fake skins. They're kind of plastic, kind of rubber almost, that they just put on top of each drum. And the cymbals are, they're actually real cymbals, but they're just 2 cymbals stuck together.
Right.
You just hire them.
All the trade secrets are coming
out. I always wondered that, because sometimes there was a video that was on Twitter a couple of weeks ago of the lass playing in the Dockside in Liverpool, down There She Goes.
Yeah.
And you can tell the drummer's nowhere near the drums.
Of course.
I've seen that.
And I was like, Top of the Pops all the years.
That's how you did it. That's how the drums were.
Here you go. That's my childhood. I'm happy.
Absolutely.
So Paul, I mean, that level of success, that must have been in one way exciting, but in another way sometimes quite frightening because you don't know where it's going to go next. Do you think the music press kind of lumps you in with a movement? That tends to happen. They want to group bands, be it, you know, Baggy or you know, Manchester, even though a lot of the bands didn't come from Manchester.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they were you know, the Soup Dragons were definitely sort of lumped in with that whole thing, you know, and I mean, I would say that probably the Soup Dragons that I joined from then in a very, very short space of time, you know, because they were just, everything was real. It was a rock band, you know, they were a rock band, really. And they were great. I mean, I loved the early stuff, you know. It was great when Ross was in the band and stuff. And then, you know, I suppose it's like anything else. Bands just evolve and you know, it takes a few years for them to find their feet and what they want to do. And Sean as well is a really creative guy, you know, so, you know, and an amazing guy in a studio, you know, had great ideas and stuff like that and really knew his chops. So I suppose that it just kind of evolved in the way that the sort of music industry was in terms of recording music and making music was becoming more studio based, you know, hence the sort of, you know, you were playing to loops and you were playing to, you know, and it just sort of, you know, but that's a thing that the music press are really good at. I'm not really good at, but do, is just because
simplify everything.
It's kind of easier for them, you know. It's you know, shove things into a genre, and then it's easier for them just to go. It's easier for them to speak out. It's just kind of lazy journalism.
There's also, you had the video for Mother, what's the name of the song?
Mother Universe.
Mother Universe, when you played with a mod symbol behind you. It was like a sort of...
Yeah, it was mod. A big sort of... Yeah. I mean, I don't know where that idea came from. I don't know where that idea came from at all, you know. But, you know, and it was just, you know, the shows, you know, was very much, you know, there was a lot of sort of lights going on. You know, Sean sort of, and I suppose always, you know, we kind of cared about how the show looked and people, the kind of experience when people were coming to see us and stuff like that, you know. And even then, you know, 1990, you know, we were using a S1000 sampler, which Sean would just have a foot switch for, and it would kind of use some samples and live samples, which a lot of, you know, wasn't really a thing then. And it wasn't you know, I suppose certain bands were using it. But the kind of imagery and stuff like that was just, I don't know if that sort of, I don't know if it was a mod circle, if it was a spiral.
Just a spiral.
Yeah, which was a thing that we kind of used live, and like a lot of the sort of artwork was like sort of fractals and stuff like that, right. You know, that we used live, and, you know, so that's probably where I would imagine that's where that kind of idea came from, you know.
Having a massive hit like I'm Free.
Yeah.
What does that do to the band? Did that take you out of the UK and just further afield? What's the pressure like as well, Paul? Because we've spoken about before, you and I, you have a hit record and straight away the record company want another one and they want it now. You know?
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah, that, I think the Soup Dragon success really came in America. When we went to the States and started playing shows there, again, it really quickly rose in sort of prominence, and the crowds were getting bigger. You know, the shows were, you know, even when we went initially, the club shows were selling out rapidly, and, you know, and we had a lot of support for the record label and stuff like that, you know. So they had really done their homework, and, you know, there's always pressure, you know, and it just became bigger and bigger and bigger in the States, particularly in the States, you know. I suppose to the detriment of the UK, you know, because I think the next single after I'm Free was Mother Universe, which didn't really have the impact of I'm Free. But we weren't here. We were in the States. You know, and it's like now, or then you didn't have social media, so you couldn't. You know, you could only be in one place at one time, really. You know, whereas nowadays you can be anywhere. And you can do things, you know, but we weren't, and so Mother Universe suffered from the attempts at cracking for use of a better term, America, you know.
You mentioned Love God. Do you think the Soup Dragon's sound was maybe more suited to the American market, the American college radio market?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know why they just got it, you know. They, you know, and it was a slightly different thing live again, you know. It wasn't, you know, it was live, you know. There was less samples used. There was. So it was just a live show, and the live show, I mean, were pretty good, you know. And I think kids just got it and were into it, and, you know, they just got it and they just went on. You know, it's just one of those things. It's really hard to explain why you have a hit, you know. If you knew why, then you would bottle it and sell it.
I definitely.
You know, so it's really hard, you know. It just, I don't know, they must have liked us.
I always think about the reality of going on tour.
Yeah.
Because it seems very glamorous, you know, from the outside looking in, going on tour in America and going to all these different places.
Yeah.
And I was talking, strangely enough, recently to Paddy McCourt, because obviously footballers are constantly on tour, aren't they?
Of course.
And he said that, you know, it's not like that at all. You spend half your life in a hotel waiting for somebody to come and pick you up to take you to the next place, you know.
Yeah.
What was that like for a young guy for Belshill? This level of success, and it's taking you to the States. I mean, exciting times, or to quote Ian Brown, the filthiest industry in the universe. I mean, did you see any of that side of thing with the record company?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a really cutthroat industry, you know. I suppose when we went to the States, we kind of just enjoyed it initially. We just enjoyed it, and then, you know, it's hard work. You know, it's hard work. You know, there is a lot of pressure on you. There's a lot of, you know, it's like there isn't any days off. You know, the days off that you see in the itinerary and stuff like that are filled with press. Are, you know, in stores or radio stations or live sessions at radio stations, or, you know, there was tons of stuff. But that's why you become successful, you know, because it's like anything.
You have to work.
You have to work, you know, you have to work. And, you know, so I think eventually, you know, certainly myself, you know, I sort of felt the kind of pressure of the constant touring, and I mean, there was some dark times as well, you know, where you just felt, you know, you were constantly away from home. You know, remember I was married, you know, so constantly away from home, and there was this huge pressure on you, you know, and, you know, as much as you appreciate the fact that you've got this opportunity to do something that you always wanted to do. I mean, really what I always wanted to do, the fame thing or the celebrity of it, that was never really... I just wanted to make records.
Yeah.
That was always my thing, you know. I was just like, I just want to make records. And touring's really tough. You know, you've got to deliver. You know, it doesn't matter if you might be feeling off one day. It doesn't matter, you know, because you're in the States, and, you know, all these kids have paid money to come to see. They've probably travelled hundreds and hundreds of miles, you know, as they do. And you kind of be like, I'm not really feeling it today, you know. I've got a bit of a cold, or I've got a bit. And there was times of that, you know, where you were genuinely feeling rotten, you know. But you just had to go out and perform, you know. So I suppose there's that pressure, you know, physical and mental, you know. This pressure's on you, and you've got to constantly deliver in everything that you do, be it an interview, be it a radio session, be it anything. You've got to deliver all the time. So
you're on your game all the time, and obviously you're up here, the energy levels, your tempo's quite high, you're getting a buzz from the gigs. What's it like when you come back home, back to normality?
Well, I mean, it was that for me was really easy. Obviously I was married, you know, and me and Liz had been, you know, we'd been going out with each other for a few years before we get married, and then we get married, so we'd been together for a long time, you know, and I would go home, and obviously in tour, you've, you know, at that level as well, you've got everything, you know, you've got everything that you want, you know. It's like people are falling over themselves to, you know, here you go, and, you know, which can be a bit annoying. It sounds great and all that, but it can be bad. You know, you're sometimes like, I just want to do that myself. And you know, so I would go home, and it was great because Liz was never enamoured by that lifestyle, you know. Liz, the rock and roll thing never really sailed her boat, you know. So I would come home, it would be like, oh, hiya, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, great to see each other.
Paint the bedroom.
No, I mean, she knows I hate painting anyway, but no, just simple things like go and put the bins out, go nip out the shop and get some milk, or, you know, just normal day-to-day things, and that would be very quickly. Which I don't know if it was an intentional thing on Lizzie's behalf, but I certainly noticed it, and you know, so and I liked that because it was that grounding, you know.
Yeah.
It was, you know, Liz never married a rock star, or, you know, she just married a guy for Belshill that played in bands. That's what I did, you know. It was actually Liz that convinced me to go and do the first Soup Dragons tour.
Right.
When I wasn't kind of really that bowled over and doing it. So Lizzie's always been, you know, we're still very happily married, you know.
Great.
So Lizzie's always been that sort of grounding for me, you know, and, you know, soulmates and all that stuff, you know. So I'm really, really fortunate in that department as well, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, you've had a massive hit with a Rolling Stones B-side. Did you ever get any feedback from Keith and Mick? You ever meet the guys?
Yeah, I think it was thanks for the check.
Exactly, aye.
Yeah,
I think Richard Ashcroft got one of them as well.
How many letters have they got printed that just got thanks?
I know.
So I mean, I think they liked it. I heard, you know, apparently they liked it. They heard it, they liked it, and it was like, you know, they probably liked the money that was coming in from it, because it sold a lot of records. That, you know.
So what was next for you after that, Paul? Coming back home to normality, what happened next?
You know, to be honest, we weren't really home during the Soup Dragons thing. You weren't really home that often, you know, because they worked really hard. They worked long. They done long tours. You know, you would be home for maybe 2, 3, 4 days, 5 days, whatever, a week tops. And then you would be away. You would be doing Europe. You would go from Europe back to the States. You would do the States, back to the UK, back to Europe, back to the States. You know, it was a constant circle. And then once that cycle had sort of run its thing, you know, there was the next record, you know. It's like, okay, it was next record time, you know. So when you were finished that cycle, you were bang right into rehearsals again, and you were working and writing.
Aye, that's what I was going to ask. When do you get time to write songs then, you know? Or is it just something that you're doing as you go along?
I mean,
when you're on the road?
In the Soup Dragons, you know, I never wrote. It was Sean's thing, you know. It was Sean's band. Sean, he had most of the songs, you know, and he would come in with the songs, and he would have a good idea of sort of what he kind of wanted for each thing, and yeah. So the writing aspect was never something that I experienced in the Soup Dragons. You know, Sean, that was on Sean, which I suppose is a pressure on him to a tough pressure to bear for one guy, you know, considering the success that the previous record had. You know.
Was Constant Treadmill, was that one of the reasons?
Yeah.
One of the reasons that the Soup Dragons eventually called it a day.
I mean, like, you know, anything, there's pressures and sort of pressures. You know, pressure always creates a sinus, and that sinus just that was it. As soon as that vacuum sort of blew, it was just like, okay, you know, game's a bogey. You know, it's like anything. I think it's just like anything, you know. There was certain things that we didn't agree with. There were certain things that, you know, other people didn't agree with, and it was really unfortunate, because the Soup Dragons were, I mean, they would have went on to absolutely phenomenal success particularly in the States, like life changing in terms of lifestyle and finance and stuff like that. And unfortunately, you know, like anything in the music business, you know, you just don't know what's round the corner. And we just, you know, for myself, Jim and Cecile, it wasn't happening for us anymore, you know. And we just decided to call it. We decided to call it a day, you know, because none of us were happy anymore, you know, for loads of reasons, which would be unfair to get into. But yeah, so that was that, you know. It was really that was that, you know. But we had amazing times, you know. You know, we did amazing tours, you know. We toured the States with INXS, which was, you know, we were playing 40,000 stadiums, you know, and I mean, even to the extent where the Soup Dragons headlined two huge festivals, one in Maryland and one in Georgia, and they were like 250,000 people, and we headlined them. You know, so it was insane. You know, it was insane the level of success, and obviously the INXS tour. You know, 4 wee guys for the west of Scotland that were just like out there smashing it. Really, you know, and you know, knocking out the park. Well, I mean, we really were knocking out the park. You know. And it's, you know, the British press, again, I think that's where a lot of the pressure came from as well, that the British press are very good at building things up and just as quickly want to smash it because for some reason it doesn't suit them that day, you know.
When you tour with a band the size of INXS, I mean, I always think sometimes bands are so big they don't even bother about speaking to the support act. Did you have any kind of engagement with Mick Watson and the guys?
For day one, those guys were amazing, you know. And I mean, I can remember the very first show we did was in Daytona Beach, and I can remember standing at the side of the stage, me and the guy was my drum tech, Terry, and we stood and we watched them for the side of the stage, you know, and we were like, oh, you know, this is nuts, you know. You know, and it was proper rock. They're proper rock stars and all that, you know, and huge. You know, it's a big rock show. And I can remember standing, and then, you know, it was like the end of the show or whatever, you know, and they were sort of, you know, the band was starting to come off and all that. So we kind of stood back, you know, we were kind of, stand back a bit, you know, and Hutch come off, and, you know, it was like the towel round the neck and, you know, the bathrobe on, you know, people putting this on him. And we were just kind of standing, we were like, that's just bonkers, you know. And he came right over to me. I mean, you know, he sort of made his way over, and he was like, knew my name. He's like, hey, Paul, hi, man, I'm Michael. You know, it's great to have you here and all that. And I was just like, wow, cool. You know, he's a lovely guy.
He's class.
And he was like, listen, man, you know, come into the dressing room, go and get the rest of the guys, come into the dressing room. And that was it. You know, when we arrived at the show, you know, there was like 4 big bunches of flowers, there was a bottle of champagne each, there was a personal card each, you know, for, you know, welcoming, you know, saying welcome to the tour, and it's really great to have you on board, and amazing guys, really, really lovely guys, you know. And we'd only supposed to be doing, I think, 2 weeks with them. So we had actually went thinking, okay, we're doing 2 weeks with them, which was like Florida, up to Georgia. And I can remember, and there was loads of bands waiting to buy onto this tour as Hampden. And I can remember coming off stage, and we were walking in, and the guy that managed them was called Chris Murphy. I can remember seeing Chris coming out of our dressing room and walking across this foyer. So he goes in, our manager, Rick Rogers, was doing handstands in the dressing room, and we were like, you know, he was like, oh, amazing, you've something to tell you, you know. They want us to do the whole lot. They really love you guys, and they want you to do the whole lot, you know. And it was like, what's the whole lot, you know? And it was like, it was just kind of under 4 months. And I can just remember saying, I'm not doing it. And I got all these looks, you know, and I was like, they were like, what? Or the manager was like, what? I says, no, I'm not doing it, you know. I've told Liz I'm going away for 2 weeks, you know, and I'm going to phone her and say, I'll see you in 4 months. I don't think so, mate, you know. So anyway, that didn't get down too well, you know, and I said to Sean, you know, how are you going to tell Catherine, you know, this, you know, and he kind of was like, yeah, you're right, you know.
Yeah.
So that was a big deal, because neither myself nor Sean were going to do it. And they were like, oh, no, we'll get them out and all that, you know. And at that time, my wife was, you know, she was working, and she'd come out bits and bobs, and I says, I don't think Liz's got any holidays left, or that's just shows the kind of power in music. I don't think she's got any holidays or that left, blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, it's okay, we'll sort that. And I'm giving, how are they going to sort that? Anyway, the next day, I can remember the manager coming downstairs, and he said to me, what factory is it? Whereabouts is it that Liz works again? And I says, it's in Airdrie, you know. And at that time, she worked for Philips. And he said, oh, okay. Day goes on. So basically what had happened was, we were signed to Polydor. Polydor is owned by Philips. Polydor, Polygram is owned by Philips, right? In Eindhoven. Family affair, still a family affair. But I think there's only 3 or 4 people sitting on the board of Philips. Anyway, the guy that was the boss of our record label knew one of these guys, made a phone call to the guy who was on the board of Philips and said, listen, we've got a bit of a situation here. The Soup Dragons have been asked to do this tour in America. One of the guys isn't going to do it because his wife's working, da-da-da-da-da. She works for Philips, but she's not got any holidays left. Long story short, the guy phones Lizzie's boss at the plant in Airdrie and says, any time off she wants, full wages, nothing against her record, da-da-da-da-da. The guy comes down and says to Liz, oh, can I speak to you, Liz? And she was like, oh, and he was like, son about Paul. And she Liz got a bit of fright because I was away at the time. Everything's cool. Comes in, just sit there. So there's Liz sitting in her manager's office, like, what is going on here? Expect a phone call. The phone goes, she picks it up. It's Jazz Summers, who was the guy that owned Big Life Records. Jazz was a real big hitter, discovered Wham, blah, blah, blah. Went on to do major league stuff, And he was like, okay, Liz, so just tell your boss when you want to finish. Tell us when you want to finish. Da-da-da. So Liz was like, what's going on here? Anyway, 2 days later, Liz was in America. We all listen, our boss just said to her, oh, so when do you want to leave? And she was like, the now. So that was that. And she just got her coat and all that. And she just left her work. And,
Talk about life-changing experiences. Yeah. That illustrates it perfectly.
Just power, just power. Mm-hmm. And that was it, and Liz come on and done that full tour with us. And she was getting paid her salary from Philips. We were also paying her a salary because she dealt with all the merchandise. She done all the count-ins, the count-outs. She was, she dealt with all the money. So it was I was like, oh, this is cool, So there was things like that, which I'm really glad now, at the time, obviously, you're enjoying it and you're like, this is amazing.
You experienced it
and your
together.
wife's, we experienced it together, we didn't have any kids. And it was after that tour, it was kind of after that tour, it's because it's tough work, that Liz was like, right, I know what you do, that's tough work, and that was that, so yeah. That was the Phillips story, INXS, and we went and did the full tour.
It is interesting to see, as you say, that, behind the curtain, what actually goes on, because all we see as the public is the music videos and everybody looking clean.
Yeah.
But that's reality of it.
That is.
When you come out of the Soup Dragons, was there an ambition in your own mind that you would get back on? Would you get back on that treadmill?
I don't know if there was an ambition. I certainly knew what I was doing. I think I became a better drummer. I had a better understanding of how to make records. I knew what it took to do that work. And what I did do was intentionally, a friend of mine's has got a recording studio in Busby, and every day, 5 days a week rather, what I done was I get the train from Belshill. You had to get a train from Belshill into Glasgow Central to Busby, and I went and rehearsed every day myself. Just plenty of clicks and just playing drums constantly for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. My thing behind that was, it was a discipline. And I had to work to even get to the rehearsals. So that in itself was a discipline. Mm-hmm. And I always kind of thought, well, if the opportunity does arise again, I'm kind of going to be ready. Yeah. I'm not going to be rusty. And I enjoyed playing drums. So I did that, and then from that, it became quite common knowledge that the Soup Dragons had split, and I got a phone call from Norman. Norman was actually one of the very first people that called me up and said, what's happening with the Soup Dragons and all that. And I was kind of, at that time, it was a wee bit sort of cloak and dagger, and he said to me, yous have left, haven't you? Yous have left the Soup Dragons. I kind of was like, well, it's kind of looking that way. So from that, it was just a constant every day. Norman was on the phone, and he's like, I've got some songs that I'm demoing, Paul. Would you come down? Would you program for me? Yeah, no bother. Went down, programmed, and it was like, and then I think there was, there was kind of whispers that kind of all was not well with the fan club.
Right.
Are in the fan club ranks, and that didn't have nothing to do with me. I was just doing this thing for Norman. I'd known Norman all my life. He was a good pal. And then he said to me, I'm going in to record these in a studio. well, you've kind of programmed them. Do you want to come in and drum on them? Went in, drummed on them. Then Raymond appeared, and then Gerard appeared, and we ended up sort of, you know, it was really the kind of giveaway for me, because it's at this time still I didn't know. You know, as far as I was concerned, Brendan was still the drummer of Teenage Fanclub. And Brendan was a good friend and still is a good friend of mine, you know. As he is of the rest of the band, you know, there was never any great animosity, to be honest. And I could remember the headphones, the talkback had been left on. And I could remember Norman saying to Jerry, have you any songs, Jerry? Have you any songs? Jerry's like, you know, he says, no, just tell him what you want. He'll just play it back to you. It's amazing, right? So I was like, this is a bit odd. Anyway, that just transpired, you know, and then, you know, me and Norman were just hanging out constantly by this point. And then I just get a phone call one night from their manager, Chaz, saying, it was quite late at night, actually. I remember it really well, because it was an amazing thing, because I was always a Teenage Fanclub fan. I was a fan of the band and the music, you know, and they were great guys. I knew them really well. And I just got the phone call saying, you know, Paul, the guys, you know, Brendan's left the band, and the guys want you to be the drummer, you know. And I can't remember doing this, right? It's slightly embarrassing, but I can remember doing this. I can remember saying, yeah, can you hold on a wee second? And he's like, yeah, no bother. A guy called Chaz Banks. And I put the phone down, started jumping about the living room. Because I was a huge Teenage Fanclub fan. I mean, and so was Liz. They were actually Liz's favourite band. And Liz was in bed. And but I can remember jumping about, like literally jumping about the living room as if I'd scored the winning goal in a World Cup final, you know. Because in my head I was joining the you know, the success that I thought this band were capable of was massive. Yeah. I thought this band were going to be the next REM. Not the next REM in terms of music, but the next REM in terms of success. Mm-hmm. I genuinely believed that it was going to happen. And that was it. That was me. I ended up in Teenage Fanclub. And the first thing I done with them was I went into rehearsals, and the rehearsals we were in was the writing a Grand Prix. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that was it. So that was the first record that I recorded with the fan club as well, was Grand Prix, you know.
So how did that feel, going for the British press giving the Soup Dragons a kicking, to the British press saying lauding Grand Prix is one of the best British albums of all time?
Well, initially it wasn't. You know, because I think the guys, I'm not speaking out of turn here, I think the guys would admittedly say this. They kind of slaughtered 13 themselves, the band. You know, they weren't happy with 13. You know, I don't know too much of the workings of what happened then. But I think they had lost, I think the press, they weren't so much press darlings at that stage, you know. Not that it bothered them, to be absolutely honest, because they're not that. They're neither that kind of band or that are they those type of people. Mm-hmm. They just did their own thing. And I can remember we recorded Grand Prix, and I can really remember this well. We were in London, we were down to do press, and I can remember the guy that worked at press at Creation saying, "It's not happening. It's not happening. There's nobody biting. Nobody." And we were like, ooh. And not so much me, because I didn't really read between the lines. They were like, oh, right, okay. So they just decided, I think we were in London for 2 days, or, we were there for a week, because we were expecting to be doing this press. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And there was nothing forthcoming. Nobody was interested. And it was like, okay, we'll just go up the road. And it was kind of decided that, okay, we'll just go up the road. And I think, now I could be absolutely wrong with the name here, but I think it was the guy who was the editor of the NME. At that time, I think it was Steve Sutherland. I could be completely wrong, but I think it was Steve, who had got a copy of the record, listened to it, phoned Andy Saunders kind of late at night and announced that the album was For Better Words, fucking genius. And from that, one guy saying, this is genius. Everybody else, but that just shows you the fickleness of the press. They were like, oh yeah, it's genius. You know, so from it going from nothing to everybody was just all over it, saying this album is a modern day classic album.
End of year lists, it was all over it.
It was all over it. Yeah, and it was such a change. You know, just in sort
How
of...
many albums have been lost, though, because nobody in the press is just went, wait a minute, this is
this is great.
This is great.
See that time, Paul, you're moving into a record company who had two huge successfully selling albums worldwide.
Yeah.
And obviously the press had engulfed themselves in, again, another movement, the Britpop movement.
Yeah.
And, you know, they were so influential going back. I was like Kevin in my youth. The NME was your Bible.
Yeah, of course it
was. You
was.
got the not the View and Monthly, and you got the NME Weekly, and that was your Bible, like, you know.
Yeah.
And it sometimes just took a good review for you to actually go and explore. Because it wasn't as simple as pressing a button on your phone to listen to it.
No, it wasn't.
You know?
That wasn't there. That wasn't there, you know. So, and it just, you know, and we just were like, I think we knew that we had made a good record. You know, we were just like, it's a good record. If they don't like it, we, you know, we like it. It's all right, you know. It's not a big deal. It's only a band. It's only fucking songs, you know. But it just sort of took off, and people all of a sudden were like, this is great, and the fan club were cool again.
You know, it wasn't the NME that switched me onto that album. It was Simon Donnelly. Because Celtic,
Simon,
the Celtic View,
I knew, of course.
They used to do a weekly thing, and they would get a player.
I was really friendly with Simon at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, there you go. And
I gave Simon a copy of it.
There you go. Yeah. And it was like top 5 albums or whatever, and he put this album.
Did he put it? Did he?
It was in the Celtic View.
It's in the Celtic View.
Right.
And
I didn't know that.
Kind of what switched me onto it. So you're big pals with Sid at that time?
I know Simon. Yeah, I've not seen Simon for a long, long time. Simon's a lovely guy, you know. Yeah, it's a cracking guy, you know, and we sort of hung around about that time. We kind of hung out quite a lot, you know. So I'm quite a few years older than Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was in the... Yeah, I can remember doing a thing. I think it was... Yeah, I did do a thing for the Celtic View as well. You know, so, yeah.
Just incredibly, after all this time, this is the first time I've mentioned Celtic, Paul. We've been engrossed with your musical career, but it's a good opportunity to chat about Celtic.
Yeah.
From Belshill, going back to your youth.
Yeah.
What kind of memories do you have of Celtic growing up?
I mean, I think the first Celtic game that I ever went to was when they beat Dumbarton 8-0 at Boghead. Am I right in saying that? Was it Boghead?
Yeah, that was Boghead.
I can remember that, and I can remember being locked out. We never get in, and there used to be a big roller shutter gate, and then they actually knocked it down, and the people just flooded in. Yeah, so that and it was, you know, at that time was like, you know, Dalglish was still playing with Celtic.
Would it have been a Drybrook Cup game, maybe? At the very beginning of the season?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but there was certainly, it was certainly 8-0. And I can remember going to that game. So that was I think that was the very first time that I'd ever, it was the first Celtic game that I'd ever went to.
Good time to start going, eh?
Who was your Celtic team growing up then? Who was your heroes?
The school that I went to, you know, I had loads of friends that all went to see Celtic. They were like, you know, that was a thing. So at that time, who was the Celtic team? Latchford and Paul Wilson.
Yeah.
McGee was still playing. Andy Lynch.
Andy.
All right.
Yeah.
Such a long time ago. George McCluskey.
That's kind of moving into 10 men winning the league territory after Dalglish left, you know, 1978.
Yeah. Well, I can remember that. I was at the last game that Dalglish played at Celtic Park. I'm right in saying it was 2-0 and it was against Motherwell, and he scored them both. I can remember that.
I would have loved to have seen that.
I can remember being devastated that he was leaving.
Yeah, and then Elvis died. We spoke about that recently, the two kings. Dalglish left and then Elvis died days later.
Is that right? Well, that would make sense, yeah. Aye, that would make sense.
Let's get back onto the music.
Let's get back onto the music, yeah.
How did you keep in touch with Celtic when you were touring around the States with the Soup Dragons and that? And obviously that was the 90s, and it's probably a time best forgotten being a Celtic fan. But
yeah, I had a season ticket, and I used to go on a supporters bus. I still went to the games with all my pals for school. You know, so it was like the guys that I had sort of grown up with from room 1 in primary, right through to when we left school. They're still the guys and they're still good friends.
What supporters bus was that?
It was Belshill Celtic supporters, and it was, you know, my mates ended up they're the conveners and all that now. So what I had done was I had a season ticket. I think 3 years had season tickets at Hampden. 3 years for Teenage Fanclub had season tickets at Hampden that season. But I can remember, even earlier than that, when I was with the Soup Dragons, I can remember having a season ticket and I would just leave it in the bus. And it was just like, you know, just so that I could, when I was home, I wanted to go, I could go. What I never done was, and I always remember this, and the guys always thought that was very noble of me, you know, was I never put my name in the ballots for any Old Firm games at Ibrox. You know, I just didn't think that was right, you know, because it was like, because I wasn't going every week. Yep. You know, I was away, you know, so I never felt right that there was one of the guys in the bus going to miss out, that I had the same chance, the opportunity as him to go to the game. So I was always like, nah, it's okay, you know, because at that time as well, obviously, you know, because you're in a band and all that, you've got sort of, you kind of find that you've got sort of, you get some privileges, you know. So, and I was like, well, there's a good chance that I might be able to get a ticket anyway, you know. Which I did on a few occasions, and I didn't in a few occasions as well, you know.
You mentioned there joining Teenage Fanclub, jumping about your room.
Yeah.
Obviously, your paths had crossed, you were friendly.
Yeah.
But I also look at the fact you were joining Creation Records, because, I mean,
McGee,
Tell us a wee bit about that record company, because, I mean, I've read a lot about it. It seemed like an absolute mayhem at that time.
I was mental. Yeah, it was mental. If ever there was a phone call on a Friday to go over to Creation's offices to do whatever, I just went up the road, because you weren't going to surface the Tuesday. So Creation was pretty mental, you know. Creation was pretty mental, you know. It was a hub of it was a rock and roll hub, you know. It was, you know, there was a lot of bands there and mental. Yeah.
I mean, you joined the roster there. It was Primal Scream, Oasis, Jesus and Mary Chain, Teenage Fanclub.
Yeah.
Incredible run of success for Alan McGee. What kind of a guy was McGee?
McGee's brilliant. I'm still friendly with Alan. McGee's great. You know, Alan went out on a limb. Alan, I think Alan started Creation with like $5,000. I think they got bank loan, $5,000. Created, you know, one of the biggest, and you know, probably the legacy is bigger than the label. But created this, an absolute monster, you know. And it's a guy who, funnily enough, was born no far from this studio,
right,
in the south side of Glasgow. And Alan's just a great guy, you know, because he put himself out there. You know, he put himself out there for the fall. You know, he took a gamble and he won. You know, he won big time, you know. But at the same time as well, you know, Alan put his heart and soul into that label, and I'm sure there was a lot of, as much as there was loads and loads of great times for Alan and Dick and Joe. That was the three people whose label it was. There's probably a lot of dark times as well, you know. There's probably a lot of real dark times, as is well documented, you know. So as much as it was successful and they'd done it with very little money, I suppose $5,000 at that time is still a lot of money, but at that time was obviously a real lot of money. But they paid for it in other ways, you know. They suffered at the same, probably as much as they succeeded, you know.
I mean, some of the people who were massive Teenage Fanclub fans are well documented. Kurt Cobain, Liam Gallagher. Yeah. You were on the same label as Oasis, obviously. What's your memories of Liam and Noel? Was it as mad as it seemed from outside looking in?
I mean, obviously we didn't. I was never a big Oasis fan. I heard Oasis about 2 years before anybody heard Oasis, and I heard them in Cecile Dade's bedroom. Cecile was the bass player with the Soup Dragons, and Cecile played me this tape, and this is it. As true as I'm sitting here, he played. It probably maybe wasn't 2 years prior to it, but it was a good at least a year. And he played me this. He says, "Oh, I've got something I'll need to play you, right?" And it was a cassette tape. And I can remember him saying this. "This band are going to be as big as you two. That's a fact." And he played me 2 songs, and I was just like, "What?" And he was like, "Do you not get it?" And I was like, No, I don't get it. As big, are you serious?" And which was really odd for Cecile, because Cecile's got an amazing ear for music. He's also very, very left field in his taste. Mm-hmm. And so it was really quite strange that this sort of, I don't know. I mean, I remember thinking, sound like a pub band, you know. But he was so convinced that this band were going to be absolutely massive, you know. And there you go. And he was absolutely right, you know. Oh. But I mean, we came across, met Noel and Liam in a few occasions. But I think with the fan club, they asked us to play with them on a lot of occasions, and we never did. It just wasn't musically for us, you know. It wasn't what the fan club were about.
Different crowd as well.
It's a different crowd and all that, yeah. It's a different crowd. And it just wasn't, and they're nice guys. They're all nice guys. I mean, I've met Paul. I've met Gwiggs. I know Gwiggs recorded I actually mixed a record at Gwiggs' home studio, the first Primary 5 record we mixed at Paul's studio. And Paul's a great guy. I've met Noel on a few occasions. Met him at very early Brits. I remember speaking to Noel, me and Jerry. And I think it was their second record, and Noel was saying, "Oh, I want our new record to sound like yours. I want the next Oasis album to sound like Teenage Fanclub." Because the two of them were huge Fanclub fans. And I can remember Gerard saying, "No, you don't want to do that, mate. You're not selling records." And he was laughing. But they did sell records, but it sounded nothing like Teenage Fanclub at the same time either. And then, I've met Liam. One really famous story was when we were mixing songs from Northern Britain. And we done that at Air Studios in London. And Liam we were upstairs, we were in Studio 2, Liam was downstairs in Studio 1. And I can remember him phoning up, right? And I can remember picking up the phone, because I was sitting watching, I think it was football on. And I can remember picking the phone up, and the guy says, "Oh, hi, I've got a call here from Studio 1 for you." And I was like, "All right, okay." Yeah, and he put it through, and it was Liam. And it was really funny. He was like, "Hi, how you doing?" and all that. He says, "Who's up there? Who's up there?" "It's Rod Stewart up there." Right? And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Oh, is Jim Kerr up there?" Right? And he was taking the piss, right? So I started laughing and all that, blah, blah, blah. And he was laughing himself. So anyway, it was a very short phone call, puts the phone down. A minute later, I'm sitting in this wee sort of green room area watching the telly. I could see through to the control room where the rest of the guys were working. And I could see the door open, and in bursts Liam with a bottle of vodka. And and I could, and everyone was like, "Oh, hi, Liam, how you doing?" He's like, "All right, lads." He says, "Okay, let me hear some fucking tunes, So we're mixing a record. And so he sat down, we played him a couple of songs, And he did say this. He says, and he kind of slouched back, he was kind of swinging in the chair and all that, And he said, "You do know that he's the second best band in the world, didn't you? Oasis being the first, So we were second." So that was that, and he jumped up, and he was quite animated and all that. And he says, "Hey, do you just want to hear what we're doing?" So we went downstairs. You were like, "Yeah, okay." So we goes downstairs, Studio 1, and Owen Morris is in, who produced, a few of their records. Owen's a notoriously known Welsh producer, There they are, they're in the studio, and they've got a full live PA rig in the studio, in the room, right? And we were just like, wow, this is mental, right? And I can remember me and Gerard sat at the back of the studio. Norman and Raymond sat at the front. It was like where the outboard gear was, and there was a wee sort of rise. And so they sat there on these stools. And Liam was just saying to Owen, "Okay, play." And he would just play a tune. And we would get a full performance, like a full solo vocal performance for Liam, who was just like giving it the full Monty, singing the songs. So we were getting this private performance of their next record. The record wasn't even out yet, you know. And I can always remember one great thing he said. I mean, he's a really funny guy, Liam. He's a really, really funny guy. And he's a good guy, Liam Gallagher, right? Just a really normal guy, right? Completely off his head. Really funny, right? And he says, play that song that our kid sings. Play that fucking song that our kid sings. The one that is fucking in it. It's fucking beautiful, man. I can remember him saying, we were just like, I was in hysterics. He says, it's fucking beautiful, man. He says, it sounds like fucking Annika Rice in Benidorm. And we were just like, what the fuck? What? It sounds like Annika Rice in Benidorm, right? And we were like, what is that, right? So just try to conjure up this image when Liam's giving it a full performance with Owen Morris behind him, absolutely off his head, blazing it through this full. It's the loudest thing that I've ever heard in my life. And that was that. It was really, and there was a photographer in. A girl called Jill Furmanowski, who's a really, really famous photojournalist. She's great, Jill. I mean, we'd sort of met Jill in a few occasions, and she's lovely. So it was a pretty rock and roll night, let's say, that particular evening. You know, there was a lot of guys in the green room and stuff like that. It's a pretty rock and roll night, and Jill was doing this book. And I think
I remember that book.
I think Teenage Fanclub are the only other band in that book.
Are you in it?
We're in that.
What was the song? Was it Don't Look Back in Anger?
I think it was Don't Look Back in Anger.
Annika Rice and Benidorm.
Annika Rice and Benidorm, fucking genius.
That is genius.
Yeah, and and that was it. And so we knew those guys. We and they were cracking guys. You know what goes on between Noel and Liam is probably something that would go on if the two of them hadn't made it and still been living in Manchester and just been a normal couple of brothers, you know. But success does that as well, you know. Money does that, power does that, you know. So, you know, but I certainly always found them nice guys, you know.
You joined one of your favourite bands, your wife's favourite band.
Yeah.
So, and you recorded 3 albums with them, am I right?
Yeah, I recorded Grand Prix, Songs for Northern Britain, and the last record I done was Howdy.
I always thought Howdy was quite underrated. It was a right good record. I mean, it was on Creation still, wasn't it?
It was on Creation, but it was just at that crossover where Sony was doing the buyout, where Sony had bought. And I think that's what happened to that record, you know. I don't think Sony believed in it, you know, but it was in the deal that Sony had to pick it up. Yeah, so I think that's sort of how it went under, you know, I think they dismissed it. Mm-hmm. But and the thing, I mean, I recorded Howdy. It was during that session, the recording of that record, that I had actually decided to leave. Right. I just wasn't feeling it anymore. As just, you know, I think things for me had changed. I think we just had another kid, and I kind of missed the fact. You know, I think I was just wanting to do something normal. Mm-hmm. I think it was kind of plus the fact, you know, that I already had a wee daughter, Rebecca, who had missed loads of her early life, you know. And then we just had another wee kid. Sophie wasn't long born, and I was away, you know. And I knew the cycle that was coming, you know. I knew that it was like album, blah, 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 and then it was like the next 2 years were just going to be that, you know. So I think then I can remember thinking, or deciding in my head when we were making that record that you know, that would be me after this record was done. You know, at the same time as well, I was like, I'm not going to cut my nose off to spite my face, because this might be the record that sells 8 million. So I was kind of like, and plus the fact you can't just walk out. You know, it wasn't, my feelings weren't that strong. There was nothing going on within the band or anything that I had to, you know. So I just decided, I was like, I'll make the record and then I'll leave. So I knew that the record that we were going to make, I wasn't going to play it live. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and that's exactly what I done. As soon as the record was done, they went to London to mix it. I never went to the mixes. I was like, no, I'm fine, you know, and I didn't want to go. And then I was just I hooked up with Norman one day in Glasgow, and we were just having a cup of coffee, and it was very, you know, we're just like, chatting away and all that, and then I was just like, okay, boom, here it is. I was just like, I'm leaving the band, Norman. And it was a bit, ooh.
But no fallout.
Oh no, there was
Still
no,
friends.
no. There wasn't any fallout. There was no animosity or anything like that. You know, it was just like, it was my decision. I decided to leave. You know, I think I just wanted a bit of normality in my life. You know, and I kind of liked being at home. I enjoyed my wife's company and sort of, you know, and I like the fact that I'd missed a lot of Rebecca's early life and stuff like that. You know, just things that I suppose people take for granted and stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and so I'd missed out on all that, and I kind of felt that I didn't want to miss that out with Sophie. So I was like, nah, if I do this, I'm going to, and I don't want to. So that's why I decided to do that. You know, and that was it. That was it. You know, the guys in the band were really cool about it. You know, the guys in the fan club, but this is just them as people. You know, none of us made a big drama out of it. You know, it was like, I hadn't died. You know, I was just leaving a band. It was, and for me as well, I was just leaving a band. It was like, you know, I wasn't going to the moon. So that was it. You know, I just decided I want to do this. I want to get a bit of normality in my life, and I got a job with the post office. That's what I did. I went away and became a postman.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
So now we're sitting here in this studio, which is very, very impressive, and it's got a great atmosphere in it. It's been a great experience to record here. But you're continuing with music after Teenage Fan Club. Is it more on a low key level? Yeah,
I mean, I had to be absolutely honest. I'd never written any songs. I hadn't any real need. I didn't feel, you know, I felt that I was contributing creatively to other people's songs, and and I loved that. And then I joined the post office. I was working with the post office. I was a mailman. It was great. I mean, I loved it. You were up at the crack of dawn. You were finished really early. I had never felt as fit as I had done in my life. You know, I was really happy. I think for the first time in a few years, you know, like I was just really happy. You know, there was no pressure on me to do anything apart from look after my family. You know. And I was quite happy, you know, and if looking after your family's financial, you do anything. You know, you just got on with it, you know, you just got on with it. Like, you know, I was never, you know, I wasn't one of these guys that was like, oh no, I'm a rock star. I don't do that stuff. It was like, I can get a grip here. You know, no, I'm a wee guy for Belshill that's got 2 kids and a wife and bills to pay like everybody else. Go and get a job and get some money coming in. And that's exactly what I'd done. And I loved it. And then just out of, I mean, I really don't know where, and this had always happened to me. I'd always had, like, you know, I'd always had wee things in my head, you know, tunes and what have you. But I never realised that that's songs that are happening. And I'd never played guitar. I had a guitar in the house that belonged to Norman. I phoned him up and says, Norman, I've got one of your guitars. He said, it's cool, just keep it. I didn't know how to play guitar, but I taught myself how to play guitar. I'm not saying that I'm a guitarist, but I taught myself enough chords. And then I just, you know, I started writing. I just started getting these kind of ideas that were coming for there. And I was like, is this a song? Is this how songs happen? Because I'd never written songs. So I just did that. And in the next minute, I think I had 4 songs. And I was like, wow, are they shit? I don't know if they're shit. And then I hooked up, it was, again, a guy that I hadn't, just all these things that happened, you know. I met a guy that I hadn't seen for years, 20 years. I met him in a forecourt in a petrol station. And he's like, oh, hi, Paul, blah, blah, blah. Really lovely guy, Ian Anderson. I'd known Ian all my life. He says, oh, you know, I'm looking after this wee band from Motherwell. Would you fancy popping in and sort of just saying hello to them and sort of, you know, giving them a wee kind of pep talk? And I was kind of like, you know, it wasn't really my thing, you know. I was like, if I was a young guy in a band and a guy walked in and was like, hey, you know, I'm a rock star and I'm going to tell you how exactly you do it, guys. You know, I'd be like, you know, you find your own feet, you make your own mistakes, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So anyway, I'd done that. I went, but I made sure it was right at the end of one of the rehearsals, and I just popped my head in. I was just like, oh, hiya, guys. Little did I know that 2 of them were huge Teenage Fan Club fans. I mean, like, huge. So they were like, oh, you know, and just chatted away to them just as normal. Oh, how's it all going and what's happening and da-da-da-da-da. Ian said to me, you know, are you going back to Belshill? Yeah. Would you drop Ryan off, who was the kind of lead singer, guitar player of this band? Just driving Ryan home, and he was like, so what is it? What are you doing now? And I was like, nothing. I think I might have some songs, but I don't really know. But I don't know how to, you know, I've never. And he was like, oh, I've got a sort of 8-track digital recorder. I could record them for you. And I was like, okay, let's do that then. And from that was the Primary Five. That's how the Primary Five came to be. And we just set up, and he had a place in Newt Hill that was earmarked. It was a community centre, very similar to the thing that I had done years previous. This room was earmarked for funding. We set up a drum kit. He had this wee 8-track recorder. We begged, borrowed, and not stole, but you know, there wasn't a huge abundance of equipment, and those very, very quickly those 4 songs turned into 10 songs, and it was like, this is a record, I think. Mm-hmm. And it was a friend of mine's who'd done a Teenage Fanclub record, Nick Bryan, who worked in Rockfield. Nick, we actually met Nick that night, the rock and roll night with Liam. We'd met Nick, he was a tape op. We met Nick then, you know. And Nick had contacted me and says, oh, I heard you've got a few songs. I heard you've written some songs. Can I hear them? And I was like, no, really. He was like, no, I want to hear them. So I sent Nick down like 2 or 3 songs, and he was playing them. He was actually at that time working with Oasis, and he was playing them kind of in a break. He was like, oh yeah. So he's listening to them, and Paul Gwiggs for Oasis had walked in and was like, what's that? And Nick was like, it's my pal's band, and you know, they've done these demos, they've recorded these tracks and stuff like that. And I'm just like, he's like, and Nick was like, they're fucking great, you know, I love it, you know. And Gwiggs is like, it's fucking great, man, you know. What's he doing with it? And Nick was like, well, they've not really got any budget. And Paul was like, tell them to come down to my place in London. They can mix it there. Will you mix it for them? And Nick was like, I'll mix it for them.
Brilliant.
So that's how that first Primary Five album came to be. You know, we went and we recorded. We went and we mixed it at Paul McGuigan's house for Oasis. You know, and so that's how I met Paul, and I put that record out myself because I was just like, nobody, you know, the drummer that becomes a songwriter, that becomes the singer in the band, you know, and it was all a bit, you know, I was like, it looks a bit shady, you know, like the guy leaves the band because he wants to be the front man. That was never the case. I was never even intending to sing. Mm-hmm. It was writing that was like, listen, do I just sing these songs so that we've got them? So that's how that came to be, and I just decided, yeah, this is quite good. And then some people started contacting me, the guys who FOP, mm-hmm. you know, the kind of major buyer for FOP, mm-hmm. FOP contacted me and was like, heard you made the record, you know, what are you doing with it? And he was like, we'll take X amount, 100 copies from you. I hadn't even, there wasn't anything pressed up. And I was like, right, okay. So I just gambled, and I just pressed the gamble button and just said, right, okay, I'll put it out myself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, because I was like, well, why am I wanting to take it? You know, the drummer that leaves the band to become the singer-songwriter. It just, you know, it looked a bit shady to me, you know, and I was just like, nah, I'll put my money where my mouth is. I'd rather do that. And that record sold 10,000 copies.
That's incredible. That's good.
Yeah.
That's brilliant, Paul.
I mean, it's, you know, it got licensed in the States, Japan, Korea, Australia, you know, and when I owned the rights, and I was like, yeah, man, there you go, boom. I was just giving them, giving them the licenses. They were doing they were printing it up and pressing it up and selling it, and it was great. And it sold, you know, on the back of, obviously, the fact that I was in Teenage Fanclub, mm-hmm. you know, so the Anorak movement soon moved in that, and they kind of bought it. And then it went from there, and we recorded Go in a kind of similar way. That got put out with a wee record label. Mm-hmm. Then Ryan left, just to pursue what he, you know, Ryan sort of works in sort of social work and stuff like that. So that's what he always kind of wanted to do. And an incredible musician. They just didn't want to do it. He just didn't like the music industry. He hated it. And then just went and recorded. I just went and recorded, which was the last Primary 5 record, High Five, with Nick Bryan again in Norfolk at Dan, the guitarist from The Darkness. I recorded it in his studio.
Right.
And that was it. And then we were doing shows and stuff like that, and I was singing and playing guitar and never felt comfortable doing it. Ever felt comfortable doing it. I was just like, this is so fake. It just wasn't me, I wanted to be behind the drum kit at the back, and I enjoyed playing drums. I didn't enjoy playing guitar. I enjoyed writing songs. Never really enjoyed singing either. And then, yeah. And that was it. I made that third album. We'd done a few shows, and I was just like, nah, I'm not enjoying this anymore. That's it, done. And that was it. And then went and got a job as a courier.
And now you're at Gorbals Sound.
Yeah. I ended up working here, and I've been working here for the last 9 years.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
See, when you were working down at Gwigsy's studio, he's a guy who's obviously had huge amounts of success.
Yeah.
But he's extracted himself from the music industry entirely.
Completely.
Doesn't even do interviews.
No.
No. And is that because it can chew you up and spit you out?
Yeah, I think that. Paul's a quiet guy, Paul was Liam's mate, and Gwiggs. I can remember Paul saying to me, Gwiggsy saying to me, that Liam went from this wee guy to this just a star, almost overnight. He says, but this was before even Oasis were formed. He said he just became this amazing persona where he would walk into a room and you could not take your eyes off him. And that's what kind of Liam is.
Superstar.
He's a superstar.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest, that's what Alan seen that night at King Tut's, because you couldn't not see it.
Paul, today has been an absolute fantastic experience for us, hearing about your musical career.
Yeah, it's been lovely, aye.
Tinged with a wee bit of Celtic here and there.
Very little.
Which was lovely. But thank you very much for spending a wee bit of time with a Celtic State of Mind. I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks very much, guys. Thank you.
Annika Rice and Benado.
A Celtic State of Mind can be found at Acsom.net. We are sponsored by FansBet, the betting company by fans for fans.